Hello. Today I'm excited to present the story of Lucius Quintius Cincinnatus, a man whose life exemplified the core values of the Roman Republic. Cincinnatus is often seen as one of the greatest leaders in Roman history, and his legacy has endured a model of civic virtue. His story is one of selflessness, duty, and leadership in times of crisis. Through his actions, we can learn important lessons about leadership, humility, and the dangers of ambition. To understand Cincinnatus's role, we first need to consider the Roman Republic itself, which lasted from 509 BCE until the rise of the Roman Empire in 27 BCE. Unlike monarchies or empires, the Roman Republic was built on a system of checks and balances, where power was shared among elected officials. This includes the office of a dictator, a position created to handle emergencies like military threats or internal strife. But the dictatorship was meant to be temporary, lasting only 6 months. This reflects the Republic's core ideal that no leader should hold power for too long. Cincinnatus embodied this ideal, rising to power in moments of crisis, only to relinquish that power as soon as the dangers wore off. Lucius Quintius Cincinnatus was born around 519 BCE and lived through the early Roman Republic. He came from a patrician family. Unlike many of his peers, he didn't pursue a career in politics or military service for personal gain. Instead, he believed in serving his country when it was needed most. His 2 terms as dictator, appointed in times of crisis, revealed much about his character and leadership style. He is often remembered as an archetype of Roman virtue, a symbol of putting duty before personal ambition. His story continues to inspire leaders and citizens alike, showing us that sometimes the most effective leadership is rooted in humility and sacrifice. The crisis with the Aequi. One of the most famous episodes in Cincinnatus's life occurred in 458 BCE during a time of great crisis for Rome. The Aequi, a neighboring tribe, had trapped a Roman army, and the Senate needed a leader who could act quickly. Despite being far from the political center, Cincinnatus was called upon to serve as a dictator. At that time, he was not in the military or in any position of power. He was living peacefully on his farm, far removed from the tumult of Roman politics. Yet, when called upon, he answered the call of duty. Cincinnatus's leadership and military victory. Once appointed, Cincinnatus wasted no time. He immediately raised an army and marched to confront the Aequi. In just 16 days, he achieved a decisive victory, freeing the trapped Roman soldiers and ensuring the safety of Rome. This victory was remarkable, not only for its swiftness and effectiveness, but also for how it demonstrated Cincinnatus's leadership qualities. His ability to organize, lead, and act decisively in the face of crisis solidified his reputation as a capable and selfless leader. His actions exemplify the Roman ideal that leaders should be servants of the people, responding to the needs of the Republic when called upon. Cincinnatus' leadership was celebrated as a model of Roman duty and effectiveness in times of crisis. But perhaps the most important part of Cincinnatus' story came after his victory. Rather than seeking to extend his power or claim personal glory, Cincinnatus voluntarily resigned as a dictator and returned to live all alone on his farm. This act of self-restraint was remarkable, and highlighted his dedication to Roman values. At a time when power was often pursued relentlessly, Cincinnatus's return to private life reinforced a key Roman virtue, the idea that leadership should be temporary and that rulers should never seek power for its own sake. This was one of the most interesting moves because historically you never see any leader getting power, full authoritarian dictator power, and choosing to give it all up for the sake of the republic. And that selflessness and putting his ambition aside was an inspiration to a lot of successful civilizations that followed. Cincinnatus as a symbol of virtue. Cincinnatus' actions went on to symbolize the greatest Roman virtues: duty, humility, and sacrifice. His story became a powerful moral lesson. Roman historians and writers such as Plutarch celebrated him as the ideal leader, one who placed the needs of Rome above personal ambition. He was seen as a man who could act decisively in times of crisis, but would relinquish that power when it was no longer needed. Over the centuries, his story would continue to influence leaders and thinkers, including George Washington, who was compared to Cincinnatus for voluntarily stepping down after leading the American Revolution. After the Revolutionary War, George Washington was unanimously elected as president for 2 terms, and he took after Cincinnatus' selflessness as a leader and stepped down after his 2 terms and made sure that was a theme going forward in the United States, that people would step down after their maximum of 2 terms in order to keep the balance of power in the country. And you don't see that today with a lot of world leaders not wanting to step down. There's been talks of even groups supporting our current president to not step down and serve a 3rd or 4th term. So Cincinnatus did inspire and should continue to do that. His history and legacy. Cincinnatus's legacy is profound. In ancient Rome, his story served as a benchmark for evaluating the actions of future leaders. Sadly, as time went on, many Roman leaders, such as Julius Caesar, chose to ignore the values embodied by Cincinnatus, leading to the fall of the Republic and the rise of the autocratic rule. Even Augustus, the first Roman emperor, invoked Cincinnatus' name, recognizing the contrast between the ideals of the Republic and the reality of imperial rule. His story served as a warning against the dangers of ambition and corruption of power. In Roman times, his story was used as a benchmark for evaluating the actions of future leaders. And his legacy remains a lesson in the importance of selflessness and public service and temporary leadership, because you give a man power for too long, it will be corrupted. Conclusion. In conclusion, Cincinnatus' life and leadership set an enduring standard for Roman virtue. He represented the ideals of selflessness, duty, and humility that were central to the Roman Republic. Even as the Republic fell and the Roman Empire rose, his story continued to inspire those who valued public service above personal gain. Today, Cincinnatus stands as a timeless example of virtuous leadership, a reminder that true leaders serve their people, especially in times of crisis, and do not seek to extend their power beyond what is necessary. His example challenges us to think about how we define leadership in our own lives and in our own communities. And what his story really did is it went against the norm of popular belief that all people want are sex, money, and power. because he had all the power in the world, the access to all the money in the world, and chose to give it up for the furthering of his civilization of Rome. Thank you for watching my presentation. Here's my bibliography. Thank you again.